The master planned community feels like it's equal parts proof of concept and grand social experiment. One of many quotes to describe one place, Lake Nona. Regardless of if you're hearing of Lake Nona for the first or 10th time, our conversation today hopefully leaves you with a pretty comprehensive overview of what Lake Nona was, what it is, and what it could potentially be in the future. Keep that quote in mind about the whole grand social experiment. Lake Nona is located right here in southeast Orange County, Orlando, spanning 17 square miles. And if you're anything like me, 17 square miles means absolutely nothing to you. So it's about 3/4 of the size of Manhattan, less than half the size of Disney World, which is insane, and about 13 central parks for reference. The area is fairly easily identifiable by the 32827 zip code. That's true Lake Nona, but you also have 32832, which a lot of people will casually call Lake Nona as well, but it's just a healthy distinction to make for all my Lake Nona purists out there. Like much of Orlando, Lake Nona was a fairly rural spot in the past, believe it or not. That is until the late 90s when Tavistock stepped in to create the smart city that we know now, about 10 minutes from the airport, roughly half hour to the parks at Disney, 30 minutes to downtown Orlando, and about 75 minutes to your East Coast beaches. And while not exclusively unique to Lake Nona, they sort of operate on three core tenets. That is, to be a live, work, and play community. And so what if we wanted to play? Well, one of the places you're gonna congregate a lot as a resident here is gonna be in the Lake Nona Town Center. Everything from your morning Starbucks or Foxtail to brunch over at Chroma, pizza at Park Pizza, or you could be hanging out with some friends over at Boxy Park, getting some light bites, listening to some live music. They got Tempo Tantrum coming through this Saturday. If you're not in the light bites type of mood and you're looking for maybe a nice elevated date night spot or just an elevated dining experience, you have the beautiful Lake Nona Wave Hotel, packing 2 Michelin recommended restaurants, the Bacan and Nami. Even beyond the town center, Lake Nona has tons of amazing and convenient food spots. Nona Blue is like a local's favorite. One of my favorites personally is Mikado's. I love the empanadas. Very often if I'm in the area for showings or anything of the sort, I'm gonna do a quick one too, go in there, get out. But really, whether it's ramen or Chipotle or shaved ice or Raisin Canes for chicken tenders, Lake Nona at this point has quite the variety of food spots. They're at least so catering to all budgets and dining preferences. But it's not all about filling your tummy. There's a huge focus in Lake Nona on wellness, and you see that in the creation of the Lake Nona Performance Center. Climbing wall, cycling studio, over 150 machines, 3 pools, indoor track and turf, yoga, Pilates, meditation studio. Truly one of the best fitness facilities in Central Florida. There's also different amenities for sports interests. So if you're into soccer, for example, check out XL Soccer World. That's for both the youth. They got youth leagues there and also matches that you can play indoors for adults. You got golf opportunities. If you're into water sports or just like having a fun time, check out Nona Adventure Park. That's a really cool amenity to have in your area. And they do have awesome wellness related events such as Run Nona 5K or the Lake Nona Triathlon. And how could I forget about the USTA? It is the largest tennis facility in the entirety of the United States. Who would have thought a hospital could be an amenity? Well, Advent Health, along with trying to build the hospital of the future right here in Lake Nona, they're also making it sort of a place that residents could go whether or not they're in need of care. And then there's the community related events that Lake Nona prides themselves on having hundreds of them a year. I mean, this week they're gonna have a screening of Moana 2 at Crescent Parks, and it's fairly easy, like most things in life, to take all of that for granted, but that's a lot to have in your backyard if you're living in Lake Nona. Of course, the appetite for entertainment is never quite fulfilled, but Lake Nona goes a far way than most. Fun and amenities aside though, there are several different dynamics that determine how you live within a community. The infamous Narcoossee traffic. Being a resident of the fairly small Lake Nona means you're going to interact with this local road quite often. It's called Narcoossee Road, running north-south the entire Lake Nona area, meaning like practically every neighborhood is off of Narcoossee in some way or another. That said, with all the construction and development and people moving down to this part of Central Florida, there's a lot of traffic that can sometimes accumulate on Narcoossee, not necessarily just because of all those who live in Lake Nona, but also you got to think of St. Cloud residents as well, which has also seen quite the boom in construction and migration. There are a few projects, some on the way, some in the works, to help alleviate all that pressure that's building up around the Narcoossee area. Test the commute, feel out the Lake Nona area on your visits. I've had clients said I've hyped it up just enough. I've had others that was like, hey, this is not that bad compared to where I'm coming from. It's also important to feel safe in any area. One of the many sites that I reference, or have clients reference rather, would be crimegrade.org. I've had plenty conversations offline and online with both clients and non-clients of mine who live in the area, one of which though I documented. And so here's what Nancy had to say about her experience being safe or unsafe in Lake Nona. As a mom of 6, like, how important was that for you looking in, and did you look into anything in particular?
I did.
Okay.
So I am a mom of 6. I have 5 daughters, and the baby is my son.
Yeah.
So in the sense of safety, it was key to me because I believe in giving my children independence. Yeah. So if that means, hey, I want to bike to my friend's house, I want to be able to let them do that on their own. And I want to feel okay doing so. And I do here. I will say when we first moved into Laureate Park, I made sure to join the community page. I wanted just to see. I want to hear the flutter of what's happening. And, you know, the complaints were pretty typical, right? People parking and not moving vehicles. It's more noise than anything to fear, but nothing that I could say that would scare me.
Gotcha.
In the sense of the safety of my children.
With that said, what's education like in Lake Nona? Well, there's opportunities from pre-K all the way up to PhD in Lake Nona. All public schools are A-rated in Lake Nona as well, and 4 different college and university campuses within the Lake Nona area. If you recall, I did mention Lake Nona putting a pretty big emphasis on wellness and health, and there is a cluster of medical campuses that we frequently call Medical City within Lake Nona. That's everything from the UCF Lake Nona Cancer Center, Nemours Children's Hospital, actually the first standalone children's hospital in Orlando, the VA Medical Center serving thousands of veterans locally in our community, and quite a few different research and innovation centers helping bring some new technology in the wellness and health space. Everything up to this point probably has you wondering, how much does it actually cost to live in Lake Nona? The average home price in the Orlando metro, according to Florida Sun Stats, is just under $500,000, simultaneously quoting over $900,000 for the average price in 32827. Now, it is worth noting that 32832's average price is just over $660,000. But regardless, you don't need a $900,000 home budget to afford a home in the Lake Nona area. For example, you got townhomes in areas like North Lake in the high 3s and the 4s. Single family homes can be found in the 5s and 6s depending on where in Lake Nona that you're looking. And a house budget of around $900,000 could get you a home with a very special type of feature that's very prevalent in inventory in the Lake Nona area. It's homes with a garage apartment. And so, for example, you take a garage apartment like this one, you rent it out for, say, $1,600, and all of a sudden you're offsetting your costs of the main home. Pardon the echo, but let's say, for example, you were in the market for an estate-sized home and your budget's around that $3 million mark. Well, something like this one that's 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, over 6,600 square feet might actually suit you. And so realistically, if you're coming from a similar priced market, you're not choosing Lake Nona to get a bang for your buck or for affordability purposes. But that could be the case if you're coming from like California. However, it's a place that most people choose with intention. They really want to be in Lake Nona, whether that's for the schools, for the amenities, for the proximity to the airport, for work, whatever the reason is, and you're willing to pay a premium to buy into that experience. One of the other ways, though, in which Lake Nona is a little or a lot different than other communities is the work aspect. Over the last decade, if you will, Lake Nona has done a lot towards building out what you could call its own economic engine. Just recently, you had Siemens Energy committing to relocating nearly 3,000 of its employees to their newest office building over in the town center. You got companies like Kimley Horn and Newview joining them as well. Existing partnerships with KPMG, Johnson & Johnson. You have Simcom Aviation, not to mention again the slew of medical opportunities via Medical City with all the service providers and practices that are within the Lake Nona area. Lake Nona isn't simply just a bedroom community. Now, of course, you're not gonna have a job for everyone that lives in Lake Nona, but it's certainly one of those areas that can say there are opportunities depending on the field that you're in for you to both work, live, and play inside the community. Funny enough, the last time I was in this very spot, it was me in a video talking about just how far Lake Nona had come. I was mostly reflecting on the past. I remember when the Moors was practically the only thing over here. But now it's to talk about the unknown future of Lake Nona. Part of experimentation lends to the idea of some sort of trial and error, like not everything will be a home run. And Lake Nona, fair to say, has seen some deviation from maybe initial expectations with certain projects, or even some changes within the town center over time. And so it does lend to this sort of cautious optimism, if you will. And there has been, credit to Lake Nona, a lot of big announcements recently that we have seen some follow through on, namely the Lake Nona West Shopping Center. This they're crowning as their premier shopping destination. We have confirmed tenants such as Target, Nordstrom Rack, HomeSense, Total Wine, Barnes & Noble's. Even more recently, Dick's Sporting Goods was announced, as well as the Mexican restaurant Canonita, and there's certainly more to come with the suites that are on the property, as well as smaller projects like a 14-acre park being built by the city of Orlando on the south side of Lake Nona, giving more outdoor spaces for the community to gather and have fun. So really, whether it's minor or major, there are a lot of projects still going on and being developed that are positively building up one or more of the tenets, the live, work, and play aspect of the community. Whether Lake Nona is or is not right for you is going to be totally up to your decision making. But one thing that's fairly objective is that Lake Nona is certainly positively shaping Orlando's future. So if you are by chance looking to explore living in the area, I'd love to partner with you as your real estate agent. Feel free to shoot me an email, info@orlandowithmario.com. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week.